The first thing I registered was the smell. Damp concrete, stale oil, and something metallic, like old blood. A throbbing ache pulsed behind my temples. A bass drum, keeping time with my heartbeat. I tried to move, and a sharp, plastic bite cut into my wrists. Zip ties. My hands were bound behind my back, the rough edges sawing into my skin. I forced my eyes open. Darkness, fractured by slivers of weak, gray light cutting through grimy, high windows. I was on a cold, hard floor, an abandoned garage, maybe a body shop. Shadows of dead machinery hunched around me. She's up. The voice was gravelly, cigarette-stained. A man stepped into a patch of light. He was big, with a shaved head and a spiderweb tattoo crawling up his neck. Jake. He'd told me his name when he'd shoved a cloth reeking of chemicals in my face outside my favorite yoga studio. Just be cool. Celeste, do what we say, and you go home to your rich husband. Another man, leaner, with a perpetual sneer, Leo, lounged against a rusted hydraulic lift. A third, younger, jittery one, Mike, paced near a door, peering out a cracked window. Right on schedule, Jake said, pulling my phone from his pocket. He squatted in front of me, his breath sour. Time to call Prince Charming. Remember, you get one chance to sound scared and loving. Say anything cute, and I break a finger. We clear? I nodded, my throat too tight for words. Fear was a live wire in my chest, but beneath it, a stupid, fragile hope flickered. Ethan would fix this. He'd be frantic. He'd pay. He loved me. The memory of his smile over breakfast just that morning. A little distracted. Sure, talking about a big merger now felt like a life raft. Jake found Ethan's number, labeled with a heart emoji I now felt nauseous seeing, and hit dial, putting it on speaker. The ringtone echoed in the vast, empty space. It picked up on the third ring. Sweetheart, you on your way home? I was thinking we could order from that Italian. She's not coming home. Mr. Wright. Jake's voice was all business. A beat of silence. Then, Ethan's tone shifted. Perfect concern layering over the casual greeting. Who is this? Where's my wife? She's with us. She's fine. For now. Let me talk to her. Now. Ethan's voice was sharp, commanding. The boardroom, Ethan. My heart squeezed. Jake shoved the phone near my face. Say hello. Celeste. I swallowed. Ethan? My voice came out a ragged whisper. I'm scared. Baby. It's okay. I'm here. Are you hurt? Did they hurt you? He was good. He sounded breathless. Terrified. The hope in my chest burned a little brighter. No, not yet. Please, just do what they say. Jake pulled the phone back. You hear that? She's counting on you. We want 500,000. Small, unmarked bills. You have 6 hours. 500, that's a lot of liquid cash. Ethan stammered, the worry in his voice taking on a new, calculative edge. I need time. The markets, a lot of my capital is tied up in the merger. Not my problem. Jake cut in. Your wife's comfort is my problem. The price just went up. 750. What? No. You can't just. 1 million. Jesus Christ. Okay. $1 million. I'll get it. Just don't hurt her. The plea was there. But beneath it, I heard it. A threat of something else. Not just panic. Irritation. 6 hours. We'll call with a drop location. And Ethan? Jake paused for effect. No cops. We see a single squad car. We send her back to you in pieces. You'll need a Ziploc bag to identify. The line went dead. The silence after the call was heavier than before. The hope inside me was guttering, threatened by a cold draft seeping in. Tied up in the merger. He'd said the same thing last week when I'd asked about investing in my friend's art gallery. A small ask. He'd kissed my forehead. Not now. Celeste. Cash flow. You don't understand the pressure. Did I not understand this? Either. The hours bled together, measured in the drip of water somewhere, Mike's nervous pacing, and the slow crawl of the light bars across the floor. Jake made me drink some water, his grip impersonal, rough. My mind raced. Our joint account had limits, but Ethan had assets. His startup was hot. He had friends, backers. $1 million was a lot, but not impossible. Not for my life. 6 hours on the dot. Jake called again. Time's up. You got the money? Ethan's voice was strained. Static Y. I've got it. I've got 500,000. It was all I could move without raising flags. Take it. Please. Just let her go. Jake's eyes, cold and flat, met mine. I said $1 million. I can get the rest. After the exchange, you get her back. I wire the other 5 the second we're together. Jake laughed. A short, ugly sound. You think I'm stupid? The price is $2 million now. For wasting my time. $2 million? Are you insane? I can't. That would cripple the company. That's not just money. That's the operational budget. The payroll. Then I guess your wife's not as valuable as your payroll. Ha! Jake sneered. The line crackled with Ethan's frantic breathing. My own breath was caught in my throat. A frozen lump. Say you'll find it. Say anything. Listen. Ethan's voice dropped. Changed. The panic was still there, but it was focused, sharpened into something else. Something that made the blood in my veins turn to ice. Just hear me out. What's the alternative here? Alternative? Jake's eyebrow crept up. The money. It's a problem. A big problem. But if the problem goes away, the price goes down. Right? Ethan's words were careful, deliberate, each one a tiny, precise hammer on the coffin of my old life. I stopped breathing. Jake was silent for a moment, his gaze lingering on me with a new, speculative interest. Keep talking. I give you, say, for 100,000, cash, today, and you make the other problem disappear. Permanently. Clean. No body. No trace. You get paid. I get to file the insurance claim without complications. Everybody wins. The world didn't just tilt, it shattered. The concrete beneath me fell away, and I was plunging through empty, black space. The words echoed. Grotesque. Impossible. No body. No trace. Insurance claim. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a contract. A hit. My husband was negotiating the cost of my murder. A high, thin sound escaped my lips. A whimper. I didn't even recognize it as my own. Jake's lips curled into a slow, cruel smile. He was enjoying this. Wow. Okay, Mr. Wright. You're a colder piece of work than I expected. All right, let's talk numbers. For a clean, no fuss disposal, 350. 300. Jesus, you drive a hard bargain. For her, 325. Final offer. A pause. Then, clean, calm, devoid of everything that ever pretended to be human. Deal. Text me the account details. I'll initiate the wire. How will I know it's done? You'll know when you stop getting her credit card bills. Jake chuckled and ended the call. The phone clattered onto the concrete. The final sound, the period at the end of my sentence. The 3 men looked at me. Mike had stopped pacing, looking vaguely sick. Leo's sneer had widened into something hungry. Jake just looked businesslike. Sorry, sweetheart, Jake said, not sounding sorry at all. Just business. You heard the man. Your value's been reassessed. Leo pushed off the lift and pulled a pistol from the back of his jeans. The metallic snick of the slide being racked was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. This was it. This was how it ended. In a stinking garage. Sold by the man who'd sworn to love and cherish me. For $325,000. A surge of pure, volcanic rage erupted through the numbness, burning away the last of the fear, the hope, the stupid love. Ewan, I screamed, the name tearing from my raw throat. A curse, a final, shattered piece of my soul hurled into the universe. Yuan, you coward. I hate you. I hope you burn. Shut her up, Jake said, nodding to Leo. Leo raised the gun. The dark eye of the barrel stared at me. My rage condensed into a single, silent, white-hot point. And then, from the very depths of that whiteness, from a place older than Yuan, older than this nightmare, a name surfaced, not a curse, a plea, a memory of sunlight and safety, a whisper on the last of my breath. Logan. The gunshot was deafening, but I didn't feel an impact. Mike, the jittery one, stood perfectly still for a second, a look of profound surprise on his face. Then a dark, red flower bloomed in the center of his forehead, and he crumpled to the floor. Crack! Another shot, this one from above. Leo spun, the gun flying from his hand as a red stain spread across his chest. He hit the ground with a heavy thud, his sneer frozen in place. Jake was already moving, diving for cover behind a workbench, his own weapon appearing in his hand. Sniper! He roared. He never made it. A shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness near the roll-up door. It moved with impossible, terrifying speed. A shape, large and solid as a mountain, was just there. I saw Jake's eyes widen in shock an instant before two massive hands shot out. One gripped Jake's gun hand, and I heard the distinct, sickening snap of bone. The other hand clamped on the side of his head and neck. A sharp, brutal twist. Another crack, dry and final. Jake slumped, a broken doll. It took less than 3 seconds. Silence rushed back in, ringing, absolute. I stared, uncomprehending, at the 3 dead men. The air smelled of cordite and copper. Then, noise, purposeful, efficient noise. The main door and a side door burst open simultaneously. Figures clad in matte black tactical gear flooded in, moving in a silent, coordinated dance. They cleared corners, checked the bodies, their movements sharp and practiced. No one spoke. The only sounds were the soft scuff of boots and the quiet clicks of their weapons. One of them, taller than the others, with a face that looked like it had been carved from granite and bore a faint, silvery scar down one cheek, strode toward me. He holstered his sidearm and knelt in front of me, his dark eyes scanning me quickly, assessing for injury. "Are you hurt, ma'am?" His voice was a low, calm rumble, at odds with the violence of moments before. I could only stare, my brain refusing to process. "Ma'am?" He didn't wait for an answer. A knife appeared in his hand, a sleek, black tactical blade. He moved behind me, and I felt a gentle pressure. Then a snap as the plastic, zip ties parted. The blood rushed back into my aching, numb hands with a painful, prickling flood. He came back around, sheathing the knife, and offered a hand to help me up. I took it, my legs buckling. His grip was firm, steadying. He was immense up close, all solid muscle and quiet authority. As I found my footing, he took a step back, and then, in a movement that was both natural and utterly surreal, he straightened his posture slightly. The other black-clad figures, having secured the perimeter, all turned toward us. In unison, they gave a slight, respectful nod of their heads. Their voices, a low chorus, filled the dead space of the garage, bouncing off the corpses and the oil stains. Miss Celeste, the tall man, the leader, spoke again, his gravelly voice formal. "My apologies for the delay. Miss Celeste, you're safe now." The name, the title, Miss Celeste. It hadn't been spoken to me in over a decade. Not since I'd torn up my old life, my old name, and buried them. It was a ghost, a key turning in a long-locked door, deep inside me. I knew that face, older, harder, but I knew it. Marcus. He'd worked for my father. He'd driven me to school 1,000 years ago. And if Marcus was here, the shadow that had moved like lightning, the one who had killed Jake, Logan? I breathed the name. this time as a question, my eyes searching the dark figures. Where is? He's handling the perimeter sweep and cleanup. Miss Celeste, Marcus said, his tone leaving no room for further questions. Our primary directive is your immediate extraction and security. Can you walk? I nodded, numb. My body was moving on autopilot, disconnected from the storm raging in my head. Ewan's bargain, the gunshots, the bodies. Miss Celeste, one of the other men, stepped forward, draping a heavy, gray blanket over my shoulders. It smelled faintly of clean wool and gun oil. They formed a tight, protective diamond around me. Marcus at the point, and moved toward the door. Outside, the cold night air hit me like a slap. We were in an industrial wasteland. Parked haphazardly near the door were two black, armored Suburbans, engines idling softly. The rear door of the nearest one was open. Marcus helped me in. The interior was plush, dark, and silent. He climbed in after me. Sitting across from me, another operative got behind the wheel. The doors closed with a solid, expensive thunk, sealing us in quiet. The SUV pulled away smoothly. Through the tinted window, I saw the grimy facade of the body shop recede, looking utterly innocuous in the moonlight. A tomb for 3 men, a grave for Celeste Wright. I wrapped the blanket tighter, shivering violently, though I wasn't cold. The adrenaline was bleeding away, leaving a vast, hollowed-out terror in its wake. The echo of the gunshots, the wet, final sounds of breaking bones, the flat, transactional tone of my husband's voice, and cutting through it all, the 2 words, spoken with a reverence I hadn't heard since childhood. Miss Celeste. I looked at Marcus, his scarred profile outlined by the passing streetlights. My father, I said, my voice a dry rasp. He sent you. Marcus didn't look at me, his eyes constantly scanning the streets outside. He was informed of the situation. Miss Celeste, informed. Of course, Angelo Moretti was always informed. I'd been a fool to think I could ever truly disappear. The life I'd built, the love I'd thought I had, it had all been a sandcastle, and the tide of my real name had just rolled in and erased it without a trace. The numbness began to crack, and what seeped through was a pain so profound, so total, it stole the air from my lungs. Betrayal from the man I'd called my husband. Salvation from the ghost of a father I'd renounced. Which one, in this moment, carved a deeper wound? I didn't know. I sat in the silent, moving vault, the blanket pulled to my chin, and stared at nothing as the city lights blurred past. The only thing I knew for certain was that Celeste Wright was dead back in that garage, and I had no idea who, or what, was left in her place. The car didn't stop for a long time. We wove through boroughs, the world outside the tinted windows a blur of neon and shadow. Marcus never spoke. He just watched the city pass by, a silent, monolithic guardian. I huddled in the blanket, the smell of gunpowder and Jake's last breath still clinging to the inside of my nose. The shivering had stopped, replaced by a deep, bone-aching cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. Ethan's voice played on a loop in my head. 325, final offer. Each syllable was a fresh cut. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes, trying to push it out. It was no use. The sound of the gunshots was there too. The wet crack off Jake's neck. The surreal, choreographed violence of my rescue. Miss Celeste. We finally pulled into the underground garage of a sleek, anonymous high-rise in a part of Midtown I didn't recognize. The elevator required a key card and a retinal scan from Marcus. It opened directly into a foyer. It wasn't a safe house in the gritty, cinematic sense. It was a pristine, minimalist penthouse apartment, expensive, tasteful, utterly devoid of personality. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a breathtaking, postcard view of the Manhattan skyline. It felt like a hotel suite designed by a very paranoid AI. The main bedroom is through there, Marcus said, his voice still that low. Professional rumble. You'll find clothes in the closet, various sizes. The bathroom is fully stocked. There's food in the kitchen. Do not answer the door. Do not approach the windows. Do not use any phone or electronic device that is not provided to you. Do you understand? I just stared at him. The commands were so absurdly normal, yet delivered with the gravity of a military briefing. Who are you taking orders from? Marcus? I asked, my voice hollow. Is he here? Marcus's expression didn't change. My orders are to secure you, to see to your needs. Someone will be here shortly to speak with you. Logan? A flicker in his eyes. So fast I almost missed it. Get cleaned up. Miss Celeste, you're safe now. He turned and left, a key card beeping as he secured the door from the outside. I was alone in a multi-million-dollar cage. The shower was a revelation of hot water and generic, expensive-smelling soap. I scrubbed until my skin was raw, trying to slough off the smell of the garage, the touch of the zip ties, the ghost of Ethan's betrayal. The water ran gray, then clear. I didn't feel clean. The closet held simple. Elegant clothes, cashmere sweaters, tailored trousers, soft yoga wear, all in neutral colors, all my size, or close enough. The unsettling, quiet omnipotence of it all was suffocating. I pulled on sweatpants and a hoodie, the fabric feeling alien against my skin. I was standing at the window, not seeing the glittering city, when I heard the key card beep again. It wasn't Logan. The man who entered was in his late 60s, dressed in a flawlessly tailored charcoal suit. Vincent Moretti, my father's consigliere, the man who had taught me to play chess, who had slipped me lemon drops when my father's tirades became too much. Time had silvered his hair and etched more lines around his mouth and eyes, but the gaze was the same, intelligent, calm, and utterly unreadable. Celeste, he said, his voice a soft, cultured baritone. He didn't smile. He simply looked at me, taking in my damp hair, the borrowed clothes, the shell-shocked emptiness I knew was in my eyes. Vincent. The name felt strange on my tongue, a relic. So, it was you. All of it. Please, he said, gesturing to the stark white sofa. Sit. You've had an ordeal. An ordeal? A brittle laugh escaped me. My husband hired men to kill me for $300,000 and an insurance payout. Your men shot 3 people in front of me. Which part is the ordeal? Vincent, the betrayal or the rescue? Both, I imagine, he said calmly, settling into an armchair opposite me. He placed a slim, old-fashioned briefcase on the glass coffee table between us. But you are alive. That is the salient point. Because of you. Because of him. I told him. I told Olafeu. I was done. I walked away. My name is Celeste, right? I spat the name. My last. Fragile piece of identity. Celeste, Vincent said, and the gentle patience in his tone was worse than anger. You are Angelo Moretti's daughter. You can change your name. You can move to another city. You can marry a financier. He said the word with delicate distaste. You do not change your blood, and your father does not abandon his blood. He did for 11 years. I shot back, the anger finally finding a target. Not a call, not a letter, nothing. I thought he finally respected my choice, that he'd let me go. Vincent steepled his fingers. Respect is a luxury. Gotta, one a father, in our world, often cannot afford. Letting you go was never an option. Monitoring your safety, however, was a non-negotiable directive. Monitoring. I tasted the word. It was bitter. You mean spying, watching. We prefer discreet oversight. He leaned forward slightly. The watch was always there. From the day you left. The apartment in Boston. The waitressing job. The graphic design course. The unfortunate incident with the professor who thought your grades could be negotiated. He saw my flinch. Yes, that was handled. Quietly. The predatory landlord in your first East Village. Walk up. Handled. The aspiring actor who slipped something into your drink at a gallery opening. Handled. My blood ran cold. A series of small misfortunes. Near misses. Creepy encounters that had simply faded away. I'd chalked it up to luck, to my own growing street smarts. A hollow laugh bubbled in my throat. Handled. By who? By Logan? Vincent nodded once. Primarily, it was his assignment, his penance, you might say, for letting you walk out the door that night. A memory, sharp and sudden. Logan, 19, his face a mask of hurt and fury, blocking the doorway of the Hamptons' house. Don't do this, Celeste. He'll never forgive you, and neither will I. My own voice, young and blazing with self-righteousness. Then stand aside. Logan, or are you just his guard dog? Like everyone else, I'd pushed past him. He hadn't followed. Penance. I repeated, the word ash in my mouth. He insisted. Vincent said, simply, no one else was to be responsible for your well-being. He built the protocol. He vetted every operative. He reviewed every report. For 11 years. Celeste, you were never not protected. The magnitude of it crashed over me. Every time I had felt truly independent, truly free, someone had been watching, reporting, handling. The life I'd built was a diorama in a snow globe, and Logan Callahan had been holding it, making sure it never shattered. Until today. And Ethan? I asked. The name like poison. Did you handle him? To vet him. Was he on the approved list? Vincent's expression hardened. Just a fraction. Ethan, right, was a problem. One we saw coming. One you refused to see. What is that supposed to mean? It means, Vincent said, opening the briefcase, that Ethan Wright's venture capital firm, Right Path Innovations, has been functionally insolvent for the last 18 months. A house of cards built on leveraged debt, bad bets, and a cocaine habit he kept surprisingly well hidden from you. He slid a photograph across the table. Ethan, blurred but recognizable, in a back room of a club I didn't know, leaning over a mirrored table. His last-ditch funding round fell through 6 weeks ago. His personal debts to certain unsavory individuals with offices in Atlantic City had reached a critical point. I stared at the photo. The man in it was a stranger, gaunt, desperate, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. Not my charming, ambitious husband. He said it was stress. The merger. There was no merger. Celeste, there was a life insurance policy, a very large one, on you, taken out 9 months ago, and a separate, smaller one on him, with you as the beneficiary, a nice, convincing touch. No. Vincent placed another document on the table. The policy, my name, a death benefit of $5 million. The room tilted. The kidnapping. It was him. The concept was his. The execution. He outsourced to the unfortunately deceased, Mr. Jake and his associates. Mr. Wright's plan was to pay the ransom, which would have been the last of his liquid assets, and some he'd embezzled, and then have you killed in the botched exchange. A tragic victim. He collects the insurance, pays his debts, and resurrects his failing company with the remainder. A clean slate, or so he thought. The cold calculation of it was so vast, so monstrous, I couldn't breathe. Our anniversary trip to Bali, him suggesting we increase our policies for the future, the late nights at the office, the distracted kisses, the way he'd held me just last week and whispered, "What would I ever do without you?" He'd been pricing me, plotting the mechanics of my disposal. The man you heard on the phone, Vincent continued, his voice relentlessly calm, was not a man panicking to save his wife. He was a man negotiating the cost of a necessary business expense. He'd already planned to have you killed. Haggling over the price was simply good business. A sob, dry and wrenching, tore from my chest. I doubled over, the weight of it crushing me. It wasn't just grief. It was humiliation, a profound, soul-scorching shame. I, Celeste Moretti, who thought I'd seen every kind of liar, had been utterly, completely fooled, played, valued at $325,000 and a clean corporate balance sheet. Vincent let me cry. He didn't offer comfort. He simply waited, a monument to grim reality. When the heaving subsided into shaky silence, I looked up, my face ravaged. Why? I whispered. Why let it go that far? If you were watching, if you knew, why let me walk into that garage? Why let me hear his? I couldn't finish. Vincent's gaze held mine. It wasn't cruel. It was pedagogical. There are lessons. Celeste, that cannot be taught. They must be lived. Your father believed, and I concurred, that you needed to see the true nature of the world you chose. The world without the buffer of your name. You believed in love, in a clean life. You needed to see what that love was truly worth to the man who professed it. Rage, white hot and pure, exploded through the pain. A lesson? You used me as a prop in some twisted object lesson? He could have killed me. Jake had a gun to my head. Logan's team had a laser dot on Jake's forehead from the moment you arrived in that garage. Vincent said, utterly unperturbed. The risk was calculated and mitigated. The outcome, however, was guaranteed to be educational. I just stared at him, horror dawning, my terror, my despair. The sound of the gun, it had all been a demonstration, a live-fire exercise in betrayal, orchestrated by my own father. Where is he? I asked, my voice deathly quiet. Where is my father? He is awaiting your return. Go to hell. He is dying. Celeste. The words, flat and final, landed in the space between us like stones. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed 8 months ago. Treatments have been unsuccessful. He has, perhaps, a year, less. Vincent's composure finally cracked. Just a hairline fracture. A deep, weary sadness filled his eyes. He wants to see you. He needs to see you. The business, it must transition. It is time to come home. Home, the word was a mockery. The sprawling, gilded prison on Long Island. The silent dinners. The expectations that were iron girders, bending you to their shape. The life I'd fled. No, I said, the force of the word surprising me. I straightened up, wiping my face with the sleeve of the hoodie. The tears were gone, burned away by a new, cold fury. I am not coming home to be his heir. I don't want his business. I don't want any of it. It is not a question of want. Vincent said, a hint of steel entering his tone. It is a question of what is. You are Moretti. That man, that insect who sold you, proved that to you today in the most visceral way possible. The world you tried to inhabit sees you as prey. Our world, for all its flaws, allows you to be the protector or the predator. The choice, finally, is yours, but you cannot choose to be a sheep any longer. The wolves have already tasted your scent. I stood up, pacing the sterile room. My mind, reeling for hours, was suddenly, terrifyingly clear, sharp as broken glass. What happens to Ethan? Vincent leaned back. That is also your choice. The immediate physical threat has been neutralized. Of course, the individuals he conspired with are no longer a concern. As for Mr. Wright himself, he is currently under the impression that the transaction with his hired help was successful, albeit messier than anticipated. He believes you are dead. He is likely already mourning, in his fashion, and preparing to collect his money. We can correct that impression permanently, or we can arrange for him to experience legal and financial consequences, or he spread his hands. We can do nothing. He will eventually discover you are alive, and he will be a problem that persists. The choice is yours. I stopped pacing. I looked out at the city, at the countless lights, each one a life, a story. Mine had almost been snuffed out for a tax write-off. The man who did it was out there, thinking he'd won, thinking he'd gotten away with it. The hollow, ashamed feeling inside me began to harden. to crystallize into something else, something dark and sharp and utterly Moretti. I don't want him dead, I heard myself say. The voice was calm, flat. It didn't sound like me. Not yet. Vincent's eyebrow lifted slightly. No, no. I turned to face him. I want to look him in the eye. I want him to know that I know. I want to take everything from him, everything he cares about, his money, his reputation, his freedom. I want him to feel it all crumbling, and I want him to know it was me, not my father, not you, me. A slow, subtle smile touched Vincent's lips. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a master painter who sees his student finally pick up the correct brush. That, he said, can be arranged. It will require resources, guidance. I'm not coming home. I repeated, but I'll use what's mine, what's owed to me, the money I put into his company, my name, my real name, as leverage. That is a start, Vincent acknowledged. But you will not do it alone. The situation requires finesse and ongoing security, given the personal nature of Mr. Wright's betrayal and his potential for further reckless action. A dedicated handler is required. I knew what was coming. A chill that had nothing to do with fear traced my spine. Who? The key card beeped again. The door opened. He stood in the doorway, filling it. He'd been a tall, lanky teenager. Now he was a man, broad-shouldered and solid, carrying his height with a relaxed, lethal grace. He wore dark jeans and a simple black sweater, but the clothes couldn't hide the coiled strength beneath, or the watchful intensity in his stance. His hair was still the same shade of dark brown, shorter now, his face older, harder, lines of stress and sun around his eyes that hadn't been there at 19. But the eyes themselves were the same, a clear, penetrating green that had always seen too much. Logan Callahan. Our eyes met. 11 years vanished in a heartbeat. I saw the boy who'd shared his ice cream with me on the dock, the teenager who'd broken his arm falling out of a tree trying to retrieve my kite, the young man whose kiss had tasted of salt and summer and promise. And I saw the man who had just killed 3 people for me, the man who had watched over a life that wasn't his to watch for over a decade. Vincent rose smoothly. I will leave you to discuss the operational details. Logan will ensure you have everything you need. He gave a slight, old-world nod. Welcome back. Celeste. He left, the door closing with a soft click, leaving us in the vast, silent room. Logan didn't move from the doorway. His gaze swept over me, a quick, professional assessment, lingering for a half-second on the bruise forming on my temple from where I'd been shoved. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Celeste, he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered, rougher. It was a voice used to giving orders, not making small talk. 1,000 things crowded my throat. Thanks, accusations, questions, tears, rage. In the end, all that came out was a brittle. So, you've been my guardian angel, or my warden. I'm not sure which. A flicker of something, pain, annoyance, crossed his face. I've been what was necessary. Necessary? I took a step toward him, watching me, following me, handling my problems without me ever knowing. What gave you the right? The same thing that gave Jake the right to put a gun to your head. He shot back, his calm fracturing for the first time. A spark of the old fire I remembered flashed in his eyes. Nothing. No right. Just reality. The reality that you walked out of a fortress and into a shooting gallery because you were too proud, too stubborn to see what was real. I wanted a real life. I shouted, the dam breaking. You got one, he shouted back, taking a step into the room. A life with a man who saw you as a line item on a balance sheet. A life that ended with you on a dirty floor, bargaining chips away your own murder. How real do you need it to get? Celeste? The words hung between us, brutal and true. I had no defense. The fight drained out of me, leaving me trembling. Logan saw it. He took a breath, running a hand through his hair. The gesture so familiar it was a physical ache. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, drained. You asked what gave me the right. Nothing. I did it because the alternative was not knowing if you were alive or dead. Because the idea of someone else being responsible for you was... He shook his head, unable to finish. It was my job, my choice. You don't have to like it. We stood there, 11 years of silence and separate lives, stretching like a canyon between us, bridged only by the raw, bloody events of the last 12 hours. Vincent says you're my handler now. I finally said, the word tasting strange. I'm in charge of your security, and I'll facilitate what you want to do to right. His tone was all business again, the mask back in place. But it's not a game. Celeste, he's desperate. Desperate men are dangerous. You don't know how to do this. Then teach me, I said, meeting his gaze. The cold, hard resolve I'd felt earlier solidified. You've been in the shadows for 11 years. Logan, fine. Now step into the light. With me, help me break him. Not from the shadows. Face to face. He studied me for a long moment, his green eyes searching mine, looking for the scared girl he'd known. I didn't blink. I let him see the woman she'd become, betrayed, shattered, but slowly piecing herself back together with mortar made of fury and a newfound icy will. A slow, almost imperceptible nod. All right, he said quietly. We'll do it your way, but my way on the security. Every step. You listen. You don't argue. I'm not a child anymore. Logan, I know, he said, and the rawness was back in his voice for a second. I've been watching you, remember? He turned and walked toward the kitchen. You should eat. Then we'll start. We have a lot to go over, and you have a call to make. A call? He opened the stainless steel refrigerator. To your husband, or rather, to your widower. It's time Ethan Wright learned that dead wives can be very bad for business. He pulled out a container of water, his back to me. I stood in the center of the beautiful, empty room, the ghosts of my past and the specter of my future swirling around me. The terrified woman from the garage was gone. In her place stood someone else, someone with a score to settle. All right, Logan, I said to his back, my voice steady for the first time. Let's get started. I didn't sleep. I sat at the sterile, marble kitchen island in the safe house, a sleek, untraceable laptop open in front of me. And I learned. Logan, a silent, brooding presence, fed me information in terse, precise sentences. It was a brutal education. Ethan's world, the one I thought I knew, was a meticulously constructed facade. The startup, Right Path Innovations, wasn't just struggling, it was a zombie, propped up by lies. Logan's team, a group of frighteningly efficient individuals with names like the Ghost and Cypher, had torn its digital spine out in under an hour. I saw the real financials, the spiraling debt, the unpaid vendor invoices, the second mortgage on our Tribeca loft I never knew existed. I saw the insurance policy, the beneficiary change forms dated just after our romantic weekend in Napa. I saw the encrypted chat logs, purchased from a terrified middleman, between Ethan and someone using the handle, Cleaner Jake. The negotiations for my disposal were clinical, chilling. He's not smart, Logan said, his voice a low rumble from where he leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He was watching me, not the screen, just greedy and panicked. He's made mistakes, a lot of them. The biggest one was thinking I was weak. I said, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. It was flat, cold. The tears from last night had frozen into something hard and sharp in my chest. A phone, new and untraceable, sat next to the laptop. Logan nudged it towards me. Your first move. Not to him. To her. On the screen was a dossier for Sandra Blunt. ESQ, a shark in a Prada suit. Her specialty was high net worth dissolutions, divorces, partnership breakups, corporate divorces where bodies weren't found but reputations were buried. She was, according to Logan, discreet, ruthless, and on retainer with Moretti Holdings for delicate matters. She knows who I am? I asked. She knows you're a client with resources and a problem that needs an elegant, legal solution. Vincent briefed her. The Moretti name wasn't used, but the implication was clear. She's expecting your call. I picked up the phone. It felt heavy. This was the first step. Not a scream into the void, but a calculated strike. I dialed. Sandra Blunt. The voice was crisp. No nonsense. Mid-conversation. Ms. Blunt. My name is Celeste. Vincent said you could help me. A slight pause. I could almost hear the recalibration. Celeste. Yes. Vincent outlined the situation. Are you in a secure location? I am. Good. I've reviewed the preliminary materials. What is your desired outcome? I didn't hesitate. I want everything. Every cent I put into Right Path Innovations returned, with 20% interest, calculated from the date of each transfer. I want my name removed from all joint assets, liabilities, and deeds. I want a legally binding agreement that he will not pursue any claim against me, now or in the future, and that he will not contact me, ever, for any reason. And I want it done fast. Yesterday, Sandra was silent for a moment. That's ambitious, given the circumstances of your separation. We have significant leverage, but forcing a complete financial capitulation and a non-disclosure of the scope will require applying considerable pressure. The evidence of his extracurricular financial planning is compelling, but it exists in a gray area, obtained through means that might not hold up in a standard discovery process. I'm not interested in a standard court battle, I said, my eyes meeting Logan's across the island. He gave a single, slight nod. I'm interested in him agreeing. Use whatever pressure works. He's cowardly, fight, and currently believes he's gotten away with murder. Scare him. I could hear the faint smile in Sandra's voice. I can certainly do that. I'll need you to sign a representation agreement and a limited power of attorney. Digital copies are being sent to you now. I propose we move immediately. A demand letter, couriered to his office and his apartment, outlining our terms and a timeline of 24 hours for compliance. Concurrently, I will file a preliminary civil suit for fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress, with a motion to freeze his remaining assets based on the evidence of financial malfeasance. The publicity, even sealed, will terrify his remaining backers. He'll have no money to fight, and no lawyers willing to touch him once they see the shadow behind the case. Do it, I said. Consider it done. I'll be in touch. The line went dead. I set the phone down. My hand was steady. Logan pushed a tablet towards me. The documents were already there. I scrolled, signed with a digital stylus. With each signature, Celeste Wright receded. Someone else was taking her place. Phase 1 is in motion. Logan said, he'll get the letters within the hour. His phone will start ringing off the hook with calls from his bank, his investors. Panic is a predictable animal. It makes mistakes. I want to see it, I said suddenly. See what? The panic. I want to see his face when he realizes the walls are closing in. Not in person, but I want access. Can you do that? Logan studied me, his expression unreadable. The loft has security cameras, interior and exterior. He never changed the codes. We've had access since the incident. Watching him has been operational protocol. Of course it had. Show me. He took the laptop, his fingers flying over the keys. A moment later, a grid of 4 black and white video feeds filled the screen. His Tribeca loft. The living room, empty. The kitchen, a mess of takeout containers. The bedroom, bed unmade. The foyer. We watched in silence for 20 minutes. It was mundane, depressing. The beautiful space I decorated felt like a tomb. Then, the front door burst open. Ethan stumbled in. He looked terrible. His normally perfect hair was disheveled. His suit jacket wrinkled. He held a thick, Legal-sized envelope. Sandra's demand letter. He threw his keys on the side table, ripped open the envelope, and started to read, even in grainy, silent black and white. I could track the collapse, the initial confusion, the dawning comprehension, the blood draining from his face. He staggered back, hitting the console table, knocking over a vase I'd bought at a flea market in Paris. It shattered on the floor. He didn't even look. He was staring at the papers, his mouth moving, forming words I couldn't hear. Probably no, no, no. His phone rang. He fumbled for it, answered. I saw his posture change, shoulders hunching, a hand going to his forehead, a creditor, then another call, his face contorted in anger, then fear. He was pacing now, a caged animal, running a hand through his hair, pulling at it. This was the man who had held me, whispered sweet nothings, planned a future. This was the man who had calmly bargained down the price of my death. Seeing him unravel, seeing the fear, it should have felt like justice. It just felt empty and cold. His phone rang again. This time, he looked at the screen, and a different kind of fear flashed across his face. Pure, unadulterated terror. He didn't answer. He let it go to voicemail, then stood frozen, staring at the device as if it were a live snake. That, Logan said quietly, pointing at the paused image on the screen, is the look of a man who just got a call from a number linked to Dmitry Volkov's organization, the people Jake worked for. They'll be wondering why their asset and his team have gone silent. They'll be wanting the other half of their payment, or an explanation. A new, colder shiver went through me. You're tracking those calls too? We're tracking everything that touches him. Phone, email, financial transactions. He's in a box. Celeste. And the walls are getting warmer. On screen, Ethan seemed to reach a breaking point. He swept his arm across the console, sending a lamp and a pile of mail crashing to the floor. He screamed, a silent, furious outburst into the empty loft. Then he slumped against the wall, sliding down to sit amidst the debris, his head in his hands. I felt nothing. No pity, no sorrow, just a distant, analytical disgust. He'll call me, I said, once he realizes the legal and financial threats are real. Once the thugs start closing in, he'll try to talk to me, to explain, to beg, to threaten. Yes, Logan agreed. And when he does, you'll be ready, but not yet. Let him stew. Let the fear cook a little longer. The encrypted phone Logan had given me buzzed. A text from an unknown number. SB. Preliminary injunction filed and granted. Accounts frozen. Media alert prepared. Leak fraud investigation. Awaiting your go-ahead. I showed Logan the screen. He read it, nodded. Tell her to leak it to a financial blog, not the mainstream press. Let it spread in his world first. I typed a one-word reply. Proceed. The next few hours were strange. Suspended animation. I watched, via the cameras, as Ethan's paralysis turned into frantic activity. He made calls, his gestures increasingly desperate. He tried to use his computer, then slammed the lid shut in frustration. His assets were frozen. He poured a drink, a large one, and drained it. My phone, my real phone, which had been powered off and isolated in a signal-blocking pouch, was now connected to a secure relay. Logan handed it to me. It's clean, for now. He'll try this number first. It rang at 8:47 p.m. Ethan, the screen said, with the little heart emoji. The sight of it now made my stomach turn. I looked at Logan. He gave a nod, his eyes hard. He had a set of headphones on, listening, recording. I took a deep breath and answered. I didn't speak. Celeste? His voice was a ragged, breathless whisper. Baby, is that you? Oh my God, talk to me, please. I've been out of my mind. The police, they said they found your purse. There was blood. I thought. He was sobbing. It was a masterpiece of performative grief. If I hadn't heard him on that speakerphone, I might have believed a fraction of it. I let the silence stretch, letting his lies hang in the digital space between us. Celeste, please, say something. I've been trying to find you. I hired investigators. Save it, Ethan. My voice was calm, ice cold, flat. I'm disappointed. I thought you'd be better at this. The grieving widower act needs work. Less snot, more cracking desperation in the lower register. The sobbing cut off. There was a long, dead silence. When he spoke again, the tears were gone. The voice was different, colder, wary. Where are you? Somewhere you'll never find me. Somewhere far away from your $325,000 problems. Another silence. I could hear his breathing, quick and shallow. I don't know what you're talking about. Those men, they took you. I paid them everything I had. They must have what? Ethan? Leet? Betrayed you? The way you betrayed me? I let a sliver of the white-hot anger seep into my tone. I heard it. I heard every word. The price just went up. What's the alternative? $325. Final offer. Deal. I mimicked his boardroom baritone perfectly. You sold me, Ethan. You haggled. You got a volume discount. You're confused. He blustered, but the fear was there, a high-pitched whine underneath. You're in shock. You don't know what you're saying. We need to talk. Face to face. Where are you? Let me come get you. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. You're broke, Ethan. Right path is a smoking crater. Your accounts are frozen. Your backers are getting subpoenas. And the men you hired? The ones from Atlantic City. They're not very happy with you either. Seems you still owe them for a failed product delivery. The gasp on the other end was pure, undiluted terror. How do you know about that? Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you. I'm the ghost of the wife you murdered, and I'm here to collect. I leaned forward, as if he could see me. You have 24 hours. Ethan, sign the papers Sandra Blunt sent you. Every last one. You walk away with the clothes on your back and whatever change is in your pockets. You leave New York. You change your name. You disappear. If you do that, maybe, just maybe, the people from Atlantic City lose your scent. Maybe the DA decides not to pursue a conspiracy to commit murder charge based on the fascinating digital paper trail that just landed in his inbox. You can't prove anything. He snarled, the mask fully off now. It's my word against yours. You're a hysterical woman who got kidnapped and is now lashing out. I'll destroy you. I'll tell them you're unstable, that you orchestrated this whole thing to get my money. I actually laughed. A short, humorless sound. Try it. See who they believe. The upstanding entrepreneur with the hidden gambling debts, the embezzled funds, and the ties to organized crime? Or the victim with a team of the most expensive lawyers on the eastern seaboard and friends in very, very low places? I let that sink in. You're playing in the big leagues now, Ethan, and you don't even know the rules. You have until tomorrow, 8:47 p.m. Sign and run. It's the only choice you have left. I hung up. I dropped the phone on the counter as if it were contaminated. My hands were trembling, not with fear, with adrenaline, with a savage, primal satisfaction. Logan took off his headphones. He was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. It wasn't approval. Exactly. It was more like assessment, like he was seeing a new person. That was good. He said finally, cold, clear. He'll be terrified, and terrified men are unpredictable. He'll sign, I said, but the conviction in my voice felt thin. The look on his face in the video, that cornered animal panic. Maybe, Logan said. He pulled out his own phone, tapped the screen, and put it on speaker. It rang twice. A man's voice answered, rough and no nonsense. Yeah, Marcus. Status on the subject. Agitated. He left the apartment 10 minutes ago. Took a taxi. Downtown. We're on him. He's not making a run for it. Looks like he's heading towards the financial district. Maybe trying to get to a safe deposit box. or meet a contact. Stay on him. Don't lose him. Never do. Marcus hung up. Logan looked at me. He's not going to just sign and run. Celeste, men like him, they go down fighting, or they try to find a bigger monster to protect them. What bigger monster is there? I asked, the cold certainty returning. Logan's face was grim, the one he already owes money to. Dmitry Volkov. If Ethan's desperate enough, he might try to trade information for protection, or make a new deal, offer you up on a silver platter to settle his debts. The thought was a bucket of ice water. You think he'd be that stupid? I think he's that desperate, and we need to be ready. His phone buzzed again. A text. He read it, and his jaw tightened. He's not going to a bank. The taxi stopped 2 blocks from a known Volkov-owned shell corporation, a consulting office. The safe, controlled world of legal threats and financial ruin I'd just constructed suddenly felt flimsy. The real world, Logan's world, the world of men like Jake and Dmitry, was crashing back in. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Logan was already moving, grabbing a black duffel bag from beside the sofa. He unzipped it, revealing the sleek, deadly shapes of firearms within. We do what we should have done from the start. We contain the threat. Permanently. He looked at me, his green eyes like chips of frost. You wanted to face him? The game just changed. He's not playing by lawyer rules anymore. He's playing for his life. And he's decided to do it by throwing you to the wolves. He pulled a small, lethal-looking handgun from the bag, checked the magazine with practiced ease, and slid it into a holster at the small of his back. Get your shoes on. We're moving you to a secondary location. Now, where? I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs. Somewhere he, and more importantly, Volkov, don't know about. He tossed me a dark, hooded sweatshirt, and on the way, you're going to send one more message. Not to Ethan, to your father. I froze, halfway into the sweatshirt. What? Why? Because Ethan just escalated. Logan said, his voice leaving no room for argument. And when the enemy escalates, you call in the cavalry, whether you like it or not. Celeste, you're Angelo Moretti's daughter, and it's time to start acting like it. He held out the encrypted phone to me. A new message screen open. Tell Vincent we have a Volkov situation. Tell him we need the cleaners. And tell him. He met my gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the old Logan, the one who'd stand between me and anything. Tell him his daughter is in the fight, and she's not backing down. I took the phone. The words blurred for a second. This was it, the point of no return. I could hide, let Logan and his men handle it in the shadows. Or I could step fully into the light I'd been fleeing for my whole adult life. I looked at the gun at his back. I thought of Ethan's voice on the phone. 325, final offer. My fingers steadied. I began to type. Logan. The blacked-out van smelled of coffee, gun oil, and tense silence. Marcus drove, his eyes constantly scanning mirrors and side streets. I rode shotgun, my body a coiled spring, my mind a war zone. On the tablet in my lap, a live feed showed Ethan Wright, a pathetic, sweaty ghost, being ushered into a nondescript office building near the South Street seaport. A Volkov front. The confirmation was a cold stone in my gut. The idiot had done exactly what I'd predicted. He'd chosen a bigger monster. My fault. I'd miscalculated. I'd thought the financial and legal pressure would break him, make him run. I'd underestimated the sheer, stupid pride of a cornered rat. He wasn't running. He was trying to trade. And the only currency he had left was information about Celeste. Celeste. In the back of the van, she sat on a metal bench, wrapped in the oversized hoodie, staring at the floor. She'd sent the message to Vincent. 3 terse lines. Ethan contacted Volkov. Need containment protocol. I'm in. Her hands hadn't shaken. 11 years ago, she'd have been in tears, furious at the world's injustice. Now, she was just still, a deep, frightening stillness. The girl I'd known was in there somewhere, but she was buried under layers of pain and a cold fury that was all Angelo Moretti. That was the other stone in my gut. Seeing her again, really seeing her, not through a long lens photo or a surveillance report summary, in person, in that sterile safe house, looking at me with those eyes, the same devastating hazel, now shadowed with a trauma I'd failed to prevent. I'd watched her for 11 years, and I'd still let her get within a trigger pull of dying. The memory of Jake's finger tightening, of her whispered Logan. Just before I gave the order to fire, it played on a loop behind my eyes, a constant, searing failure. He's inside, Marcus grunted, nodding to the tablet. Third floor. We have eyes on the hallway. 2 Volkov sentries at the stairwell door. The office itself is a black box. No audio. How long? My voice was rough. Standard meet? 10, 15 minutes. Long enough to offer the product and negotiate price. The product was Celeste. Her location. Her habits. Proof she was alive. My fingers tightened on the edge of the tablet. The secondary location ready? Locked down. Clean. No tails. I turned in my seat to look at her. We're moving you. Now, before he gives them anything useful. She looked up, her gaze clear and unsettlingly direct. Where? Somewhere Volkov's, people don't have on a list. Somewhere Ethan's never heard of. I hesitated. It's a property. Your father's. In Westchester. A flicker of revulsion crossed her face. Quickly schooled. Of course it is. Another gilded cage. It's a fortress. I corrected, my tone hardening, with a panic room that could withstand a direct artillery hit, a dedicated security team, and no paper trail connecting it to the Moretti name. It's the safest place on the East Coast right now. Or would you prefer to take your chances back at the loft? The flash of anger in her eyes was almost a relief. The real Celeste, pushing through. Don't patronize me. Logan, I agreed to this. I'm not arguing. I'm just tired of his shadow over everything. Join the club, I muttered, turning back around. For 11 years, Angelo Moretti's shadow had been my entire world. His orders, his daughter, my penance. The drive to Westchester was silent. Celeste stared out the window at the passing darkness. I watched the feeds, my mind racing through contingencies. Vincent would be mobilizing the cleaners, a specialized team for neutralizing volatile situations without overt warfare. But they took time. We had hours, maybe less, before Volkov decided if Ethan's information was worth acting on. The property was a sprawling, modern compound hidden behind a forest of old-growth trees and a 12-foot stone wall. It looked like a tech billionaire's retreat. Inside, it was a bunker with tasteful furniture. A security hub hummed in a sub-basement, staffed by 2 of my most trusted operatives. I showed Celeste to a bedroom, minimalist, secure, with a view of nothing but woods. Get some rest. There's food in the kitchen. Don't open any exterior doors. The system is armed. She didn't move towards the bed. She stood in the center of the room, looking small and lost in the vast space. What happens now? With Ethan? Now, we wait. We see what deal he makes. We prepare for Volkov to make a move, and we be ready when he does. And then we end it. I turned to leave. Logan. I stopped, my hand on the doorframe, but didn't turn. That night, when I left, you said you'd never forgive me. Her voice was quiet. Did you? The old wound, ripped open. I finally looked at her. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about watching you walk into a world that eats people like you for breakfast, and being ordered to let you go. The words were out, harsher than I intended. So, no, I didn't forgive you. I followed you. I watched every stupid mistake, every bad decision, every Ethan right you led into your life. And I cleaned it up, because that was my job. My punishment for failing to stop you the first time. Her face paled, but she didn't look away. I never asked for a guardian. You didn't have to ask. The volume of my own voice surprised me. I took a step into the room, the professional mask cracking. You were born with one. Me. That was the deal. From the time we were kids. It was my job to keep you safe. And you threw it in my face. You called me his dog. So fine. I became the dog. A very effective one. And I kept you alive. Even from yourself. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. I wasn't a possession to be guarded. Logan, I was a person. I needed to breathe. And how'd that work out for you? The question was cruel, but I couldn't stop it. The image of her bound on that garage floor was burned into my retinas. You got your freedom. You got to breathe. And it nearly got you killed by a bottom feeder who saw you as a payday. So you tell me, Celeste, was it worth it? She flinched as if I'd struck her. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice a fragile thread, she asked, is that all I was to you? A job? A penance? The truth was a knot in my chest, too tangled to unravel. The memory of her at 16, laughing on the sailboat, sunlight in her hair, the feel of her lips against mine. Once, clumsy and perfect, the way my world had narrowed to the single point of her safety for over a decade. It stopped being just a job a long time ago. I said, the fight gone out of me, leaving only a bone-deep weariness. That's the problem. I left before she could reply, closing the door softly behind me. I leaned against the wall in the hallway, closing my eyes, dragging a hand down my face. Unprofessional, messy, dangerous. My encrypted phone buzzed. Vincent, report. He said, no greeting. Subject is secure at the secondary location. Ethan Wright met with Volkov's lieutenant, Gregor, for 18 minutes. He just left the building. He looks hopeful, which means he probably gave them something. Understood. The cleaners are en route. They will establish a perimeter and be on standby for your directive. Your priority remains the principal. Do not engage Volkov unless directly threatened. This is a containment, not a provocation. Understood. I paused. Sir, she's asking for a face-to-face. With Angelo, a long sigh on the other end. I will convey the request. His condition is unstable today, but he wishes to see her. Soon. Keep her safe. Logan, the real battle is just beginning. He hung up. The real battle, not with Volkov. The battle for Celeste's soul. The battle between the woman she'd tried to become and the heir she was born to be. And I was stuck in the middle. As always, I spent the next few hours in the security hub, monitoring every feed. Ethan had gone to a dive bar near the waterfront. He was drinking heavily, a shaky, triumphant smile on his face. He thought he'd bought himself a lifeline. Idiot. Volkov didn't do lifelines. He did favors, with exorbitant, often bloody, interest. Marcus called just after midnight. Movement. 2 vehicles, black SUVs, just left a Volkov-controlled warehouse in Red Hook, heading north. 5 hostiles, armed, professional. My blood went cold. They're coming here. It was too fast. Ethan must have given them the Tribeca loft. But we hadn't been there in hours. Unless he'd guessed, or he'd had her followed earlier, or Volkov had deeper intel than we thought. The cleaners are in position. Marcus said, they're requesting rules of engagement. I thought of Celeste, probably awake in that sterile bedroom. I thought of the fear in her eyes in the garage, the cold resolve in them tonight. Defensive perimeter. I said, the commander's calm, settling over me like a second skin. No one gets within 200 yards of the main house. If they breach, you are weapons free. I want one alive for questioning. Prioritize the principles, safety above all. Copy that. I left the hub and took the stairs 2 at a time. I didn't knock. I opened her bedroom door. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still dressed, her head in her hands. She looked up, startled. We have company, I said. My voice clipped. Volkov, they're about 10 minutes out. You're going to the panic room. Now, to her credit, she didn't freeze. She stood. How many? Doesn't matter. You're not fighting. This is what the room is for. I led her out into the hall, down a back staircase to the subterranean level. The panic room was behind a disguised door in the wine cellar. It was a small, sleek space with monitors, communications equipment, a bunk, and enough supplies for a week. I ushered her in, locked the door behind me. The code is 0915. Her birthday. Old habit. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marcus. You'll be able to see the external feeds on that screen. I pointed. Don't watch if you don't want to. She caught my arm as I turned to go. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Logan. I looked at her hand, then at her face. The fear was there, but it was controlled. What? Don't you get hurt on my account. It wasn't a plea. It was an order, a faint, ghostly echo of the girl who used to tell me not to climb so high in the oak tree. A grim, humorless smile touched my lips. It's my job, remember? I pulled my arm free, stepped out, and heard the heavy thunk of the locking mechanism engage. Then I was moving, an extension of the house, the team, the mission. I retrieved a compact assault rifle from a hidden wall panel, checked my sidearm, and slipped an earpiece in. Status, I whispered, moving to a prepositioned overlook window that gave a view of the main gate and the long driveway. SUVs have stopped a quarter-mile out. Marcus's voice came through. Come, they're deploying on foot. 5 hostiles, as counted. Night vision, body armor. They're pros. Cleaners in position, flanking, waiting for your signal. I watched through the night vision scope of my rifle. 5 dark shapes moved through the trees, silent and fluid. They were good, but the cleaners were better, and they were on home ground. Let them get within the perimeter. I said, then take them. It happened with a brutal, efficient quiet. One moment, the figures were advancing. The next, 2 dropped without a sound, taken down by suppressed shots from the trees. The remaining 3 spun, firing blindly into the darkness. Muzzle flashes lit up the night. One of the cleaners, a man we called Rook, materialized from behind a garden shed and engaged 2 hostiles at close range. The sound of the brief, vicious firefight was muffled by the trees. A 3rd hostile broke and ran back towards the SUVs. I have the runner, I said, sighting through the scope. I led him slightly, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked softly against my shoulder. The runner's leg buckled, and he went down with a cry. Perimeter secure. Marcus reported. For hostiles down, 1 wounded. As requested, no casualties on our side. Secure the prisoner. I'm coming out. I exited the house. The cool night air sharp with the smell of pine and cordite. Rook and another cleaner were already patching up the leg wound of the man I'd shot, a slab-faced brute with a Slavic tattoo on his neck. He was cursing in thickly accented English. I knelt in front of him. You work for Gregor. He spat at my feet. Rook kicked him in the wounded leg. The man screamed. I'll ask again. Gregor sent you? For the woman? Go to hell. He snarled through gritted teeth. I nodded to Rook, who produced a wicked-looking tactical knife. We have all night, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. And you have 1 good leg left. Who gave you this address? The man's bravado faltered as Rook brought the knife close to his other thigh. Right, the banker. He gave Gregor the address. Said the bitch would be here. Said she was alone. Just a couple of hired hands. He gave you this specific address? I pressed. That was impossible. Ethan didn't know it. No. A property listing in Westchester, owned by a shell company. Gregor. He has people. They cross-reference. They find this one. Said it was a Moretti blind. A big score. So, Ethan had given them the shell corporation that owned this and other properties. Volkov's people had done the legwork. Guessed right. It wasn't a direct leak, but it was too close. What were the orders? I asked. grabbed the woman. Alive. Priority. If not, then dead. But proof. Finger. Jewelry. Something. Right said she was worth millions dead. Gregor wanted to collect. Cold rage. Clean and focused. Settled in my veins. I stood up. Patch him up enough to talk. Then call our friends at the FBI's Organized Crime Task Force. Give them a gift. Tell them he's willing to talk about Volkov's operations in exchange for witness protection. I looked down at the man. Your choice. A cell in a supermax or a new name in Kansas. But you're done working for Gregor. The defiance in his eyes died, replaced by a dull fear. He knew what Volkov did to failures who talked. I turned and walked back to the house. The adrenaline was fading, leaving the familiar, hollow aftermath. Another fire put out, another threat neutralized. For now, I went down to the panic room and keyed in the code. The door hissed open. Celeste was standing in the center of the small room, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the bank of monitors. They showed the aftermath, the cleaners moving bodies, the prisoner being dragged away. She'd seen it all. She turned to face me. Her face was pale, but composed. Is it over? For tonight. They won't be back. Their man will be in federal custody by morning, singing like a canary. It'll keep Volkov busy for a while. She nodded, absorbing it. And Ethan? He just signed his own death warrant with Volkov by giving them bad intel that led to a failed op and a flipped asset. I met her gaze. He's a dead man walking. The only question is who gets to him first. She walked past me, out of the panic room and up the stairs. I followed. In the kitchen, she poured herself a glass of water with steady hands. I want to see him, she said, not looking at me. Before it's over, I want to look him in the eye one more time. It's not safe. Nowhere is safe. She flared, turning on me. That's the point, isn't it? That's the lesson. So if I'm not safe hiding in a bunker, then I might as well be where I can do something. I'm not asking to confront him alone. I'm asking you to take me, to be there, to help me get the closure, or the vengeance, whatever you want to call it. She was breathing heavily. The calm shattered. The raw emotion, I remembered, finally breaking through. The hurt, the betrayal, the need for answers. I looked at her, this woman who was both a stranger and the most familiar person in my world. The principal, the job, the girl I'd loved, the woman whose life I'd curated from the shadows. Vincent's words echoed. The real battle is just beginning. Maybe she was right. Maybe hiding wasn't the answer anymore. Maybe the only way out was through. All right, I heard myself say. The word felt like a commitment, a crossing of a line I couldn't uncross. But we do it my way, a controlled environment, on our terms, not an emotional showdown in the street. How? She asked, hope and suspicion warring in her eyes. We use what he wants. The money, the insurance payout. He thinks you're dead. We'll give him a chance to collect. We'll draw him out. The plan began to form, cold and precise, but it's dangerous. For you, you'll be the bait. A slow, grim smile touched her lips. It held no joy, only a dark, terrifying resolve. I'm done being the victim. Logan, bait implies passivity. I'm not bait. I'm the hook. She took a step closer, her eyes searching mine. So, are you in? Not as my keeper, not as my father's soldier, as my partner. In this, just this. The word hung between us. Partner. It wasn't a word that existed in my operational vocabulary. Principal and protector, handler and asset. Never partners. But looking at her, seeing the ghost of the fearless girl I'd known fused with this new, hardened woman, I knew I'd crossed that line the moment I heard her whisper my name in that garage. There was no going back to just being the shadow. Yeah, I said, the word rough but certain. I'm in. Partners. She held my gaze for a long moment, then gave a single, sharp nod. Good. Then let's go make a widow. 1 week later, silence. That was the first thing I noticed. Not peaceful silence. The heavy, waiting silence of a tomb. The Westchester safe house, for all its technology and hidden fortifications, felt like it was holding its breath. Logan's team, supplemented by Vincent's cleaners, had turned the compound into a fortress. Motion sensors littered the woods. Thermal cameras watched from the trees. The two operatives in the basement hub, Kale and Rin, spoke in terse, coded phrases over the comms. Marcus was a permanent, grim shadow near the main entrance. Logan himself was a vortex of controlled tension. He moved through the rooms with a predator's quiet grace, checking sightlines, testing communications, his green eyes constantly scanning, assessing. The professional detachment he'd worn like armor since my rescue had developed hairline fractures. I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, his expression a complex map of guilt, duty, and something else I was afraid to name. The word partners hung between us, unspoken but charged, a new and fragile framework for whatever this was. We'd laid the trap for Ethan, using a cutout. Sandra Blunt had sent a new, unofficial communique to his lawyer, a tantalizing hint that a witness, me, might be willing to recant my story in exchange for a swift, quiet financial settlement. No police. The bait was the insurance money. The hook was his desperation. He'd taken it, greed overriding his terror of Volkov. A meet was set for a neutral location in 2 days. It was a fiction, a way to draw him into the open, away from the city, where Logan's team could take him cleanly. We'd underestimated Dmitry Volkov's pride and his intelligence network. The siege began at 2:14 a.m. I was in the secured bedroom, drifting in a shallow, troubled sleep, when a soft, insistent chime from the bedside tablet woke me. It was a direct feed from the security hub. No audio, just text scrolling. Kale, perimeter breach, eastern tree line, multiple contacts. Thermal signatures confirm at least 8. Armed. My heart slammed against my ribs. Before I could process it, the door to my room opened. Logan stood there, already in tactical gear, a compact rifle slung across his chest. His face was all hard angles in the dim light from the hall. Up, now. Panic room. His voice was low, utterly calm. The eye of the storm. Is it? Volkov, move. There was no time for fear. I scrambled out of bed, yanking on the hoodie and sweatpants I'd left on a chair. As I followed him into the hallway, the silence outside shattered. The first sound was a wet thwump from the woods, followed by a deafening sirum pa. One of the exterior floodlights exploded in a shower of sparks and glass. A suppressed grenade launcher. They're probing the defenses. Logan muttered, grabbing my arm and pulling me towards the back staircase. Marcus, report. Marcus's voice crackled in the earpiece I could just see in Logan's ear. Eastern perimeter team engaged. 2 hostiles down. We've got muzzle flashes from the north and south now. They're flanking. Professional, military-grade suppressors. Fall back to the secondary defensive line. Funnel them towards the kill zones. Do not let them breach the house. Another explosion. Closer this time. Shook the floor. A painting rattled on the wall. We hit the basement stairs as the staccato rhythm of fully automatic gunfire erupted outside. A vicious conversation of snapping branches and pinging metal. The panic room door hissed open. Logan pushed me inside. Code 0915. Don't open it. You'll have feeds. He pointed to the bank of monitors flickering to life, showing chaotic, green-tinted night vision images of the woods, muzzle flashes, dark figures moving. Logan, do not open the door. Celeste, his eyes held mine for a split second. A world of unspoken words in that look. Then he was gone, the door sealing shut with a sound of finality. I was alone with the screens and the war. The monitors offered a horrifying, disjointed ballet of violence. I saw Marcus and two other figures in black, tactical gear, firing from behind the stone wall of the terrace, then ducking as return fire chewed the stone to dust. I saw a cleaner I didn't know rise from a concealed foxhole near the tree line and take down a running figure with a short, controlled burst. The figure crumpled. On another screen, I saw Logan. He'd taken a position at a first-floor window that had been replaced with bulletproof polycarbonate. He wasn't firing wildly. He was waiting, sniper still. A shadow moved across the lawn, heading for the main entrance. Logan's rifle coughed once. A soft futoff suppressed sound. The shadow jerked and fell. North team, report. Logan's voice came through a speaker in the room, tinny and calm. North is clear. Two hostiles neutralized. No movement. South? South holding. Heavy fire. They're using the SUVs for cover. Requesting. The transmission dissolved into a burst of static and a roar of gunfire so loud it came through the walls. The house shuddered. On the south feed, I saw one of the black SUVs lurch forward, its engine screaming, and ram through the decorative iron gate at the side of the property. Men poured out behind it, using the vehicle as a moving shield, firing relentlessly at the south defensive position. They're breaching the inner perimeter. A voice yelled over the comms. Fall back to the house. The tactical dance was collapsing into close-quarters chaos. Figures retreated across the lawn towards the house, firing behind them. Logan disappeared from his window. I heard the heavy thud of the reinforced front door being barred. Then, a new sound, not gunfire, a voice, amplified, thick with a Slavic accent, echoing across the bullet-torn lawn. Moretti, we know you're in there. Send out the woman. Send out Celeste Wright. And the rest of you can walk away. My blood turned to ice. They knew my name, not my real name. The other one. The voice continued. Your little soldiers are good, but we have more. You are surrounded. You have 3 minutes. Then we burn the house down with you in it. Silence, except for the crackle of the blown-out floodlight. Then, Logan's voice, calm and clear, not through a speaker, but projected from the house somehow. You're Dmitri Volkov's errand boy, Gregor, right? He sent you to do his dirty work. How's your man in FBI custody talking? He giving them good directions to your Brooklyn warehouses? A pause, then a growl. You are dead men. You first. The assault that followed was ferocious. Concentrated fire hammered the front of the house. The bulletproof windows webbed with cracks, but held. I saw on the thermal cameras figures attempting to place shaped charges on the side door. They're trying to blow the door. I said aloud, to no one. My hands were clenched so tight my nails bit into my palms. I was a prisoner in a metal box, watching my fate, and the fate of the men protecting me, unfold on a screen. The helplessness was a physical pain, worse than the fear. On a feed from the living room camera, I saw Logan and Marcus taking positions behind an overturned heavy sofa. Kale was at the top of the stairs, covering the hallway. They were outnumbered, pinned down. The voice came again. Last chance. The woman. Or we cook you. An idea, desperate and insane, flickered in my mind. I looked at the communications panel in the panic room. Logan had shown me the basics. There was an all-hands channel. I stared at the console, then at the screen showing the living room. At Logan, his face a mask of focused fury as he reloaded his rifle. I didn't let myself think. I switched to the all-hands frequency. Logan, can you hear me? A beat of stunned silence on the comms. Then, his voice, sharp with alarm and anger. Celeste, get off this channel. That's an order. They want to talk. Let me talk to him. No, absolutely not. They're going to blow the door or set the house on fire. You're trapped. This is a stalemate he can win with a match. Let me change the equation. It's too dangerous. He'll use it to locate you. He already knows I'm in the house. Let me try. My voice didn't sound like my own. It was steady, cold, the voice of Angelo Moretti's daughter. Give me an external. Mike patch me through to his loudspeaker. Let me buy you time. Let me be the hook. Logan, you said you were in. Along. Tense silence, filled only with the distant thump of the assault on the door. I could imagine the war raging behind his eyes. The protector versus the partner. Marcus's voice cut in, strained. Logan, charges are set on the east side door. We have maybe 90 seconds. A curse, low and vehement. Then, fine. Kale, patch her audio to the external speaker system. Celeste, you get 30 seconds. You say nothing about your location. You understand? You're a voice in the dark. You stall. That's it. Understood. A light on the console turned green. A small microphone extended. I took a deep breath. My mind racing. I wasn't Celeste Wright. Victim. I had to be someone else. I keyed the mic Gregor. My voice, amplified, echoed strangely across the battlefield. The gunfire from outside stuttered, then stopped. Surprise. Who is this? The Slavic voice demanded. You know who it is. You came here for me. Celeste Wright. But you've been lied to. A harsh laugh. Lied to? By who? Your dead husband? He was very convincing. And very cheap. Ethan Wright is a bankrupt, desperate little man who would sell his mother for a line of credit. I said, the contempt dripping from my words. I leaned into the mic, into the persona, the Moretti heiress, annoyed by the inconvenience. He told you I was here, alone, a soft target, an easy payday. Look around you. Does this look easy to you? No answer. He told you I was worth millions dead. He was right, but he failed to mention why. I let that hang. He failed to mention who had come to collect that debt from anyone who touched me. Do you know the name Moretti? Gregor? A longer silence. When he spoke again, the bravado was tinged with the first hint of uncertainty. Fairy tales, old stories. Are the men currently bleeding out in your boss's woods a fairy tale? I pressed. Is the asset singing to the FBI a fairy tale? You attacked a Moretti holding. You came for a Moretti. You have exactly one chance to walk away from this. Take your remaining men, get in your vehicles, and go back to Dimitri. Tell him Ethan Wright played him. Tell him the price for this insult is the man who delivered it. You bring me Ethan Wright's head. Figuratively or literally, and the ledger is cleared. You persist, and I promise you, by sunrise, there won't be a Volkov operation left in the tri-state area. My father is a traditionalist. He believes in proportional response. I am not my father. The silence from outside was absolute. I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears. On the screen, I saw Logan, still behind the sofa, staring at the ceiling as if he could see through it to me. His expression unreadable. You are bluffing, Gregor said, but the conviction was gone. Am I? I said softly. Then light the match. Gregor, see what happens. Another eternity passed. 10 seconds. 20. On the monitor showing the east door, I saw two dark figures slowly back away from the door, vanishing into the tree line. Then, the amplified voice, grudging, furious. Wright is a dead man. I know. I said, the only question is who does the killing. Make your choice. No reply. The comms from Logan's team came alive with quiet, urgent updates. Hostiles are withdrawing. Visual on 3. Moving east, towards the road. SUV engines starting. The tension in the panic room was so thick I could taste it. Was it a trick? A retreat to regroup? Then, Logan's voice. Quiet on the all hands. They're leaving. For now. Hold positions. Do not pursue. Let them go. The roaring in my ears subsided, leaving a hollow, trembling exhaustion. I sagged against the console. My legs like a water. I'd done it. I'd stared them down. It took another 20 minutes to confirm the property was clear. Finally, The lock on the panicked door disengaged with a heavy clunk. It swung open. Logan stood there. He was smudged with dirt and gunpowder. A long, shallow cut on his cheekbone oozing blood. His eyes were dark, intense, burning into me. He didn't speak. He crossed the small room in 2 strides, and before I could react, his hands were on my shoulders. He pulled me into a hard, brief, crushing embrace. I felt the solid weight of him, the rapid beat of his heart against mine, the faint scent of sweat and cordite. It lasted less than 3 seconds. Then he let go, stepping back as if shocked by his own action. That, he said, his voice rough, was the stupidest, bravest, most insane thing I have ever seen. Do not ever do that again. Did it work? I asked, my own voice shaky. It worked. For now. You bought us time. You also painted the biggest target in the world on your back. Volkov won't forget that insult, and he'll know Moretti was behind it. I know. He studied me, shaking his head slowly, a strange, almost reluctant respect in his eyes. Who are you? Before I could answer, Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face grim. Logan, we have a problem. A car just sped through the outer security checkpoint. Didn't stop. Single occupant. Logan was instantly back in command mode. One of Volkov's. Doubling back? No. Marcus's gaze flicked to me. It's a silver Audi S5, registered to Ethan Wright. The world narrowed to a single. White hot point. Ethan. Here. He must have been following Volkov. Logan snarled. Or tracking them. Hoping to swoop in after the fight. And what? Grab you? Finish the job himself? He grabbed his rifle. Marcus. With me. Kale. You and Rin secure the principal. Do not let her out of this room. No. The word left my lips before I could think. Logan turned. A storm on his face. Celeste. Not now. You said partners. I fired back, stepping towards him. He's here. For me. Because of me. I'm not hiding in a box while you clean up my mess. Again. It's not safe. It's never going to be safe. I shouted, the adrenaline and fury of the last hour boiling over. He's in the open. He's alone. This is the controlled environment you wanted. So let's control it. You have snipers. You have a team. I'll stay behind you, in the open, where he can see me. I want him to see me. I want him to know he failed. We stood toe to toe, the air crackling between us. The protector and the princess, the soldier and the survivor, the boy and the girl from a lifetime ago. Marcus cleared his throat. He's out of the car. He's just standing in the middle of the driveway. He's holding something white. A shirt. Maybe. He looks unhinged. Logan's eyes never left mine. I saw the calculation, the risk assessment, the fierce, protective denial, and I saw the moment he relented, the moment he trusted me, or trusted the part of me that was a Moretti. All right, he said, the word gritted out. But you do exactly as I say. You stay behind cover until I give the signal. You speak only when I tell you to. Is that clear, partner? Crystal. He gave a sharp nod. Marcus, get a sniper on him. Non-lethal disable if he makes a move. Celeste, with me. We moved through the shattered house. The front door was scarred and dented but intact. Logan positioned me just inside, behind the reinforced frame, where I could see out but would be protected. He stood in the doorway, his rifle held at a low ready, a clear silhouette against the light from within. Ethan stood 50 yards down the curved driveway, under the harsh, flickering light of the one remaining floodlight. He looked like a ghost of the man I'd married. His clothes were rumpled, his face pale and gaunt. In his raised hand, he did indeed hold a white T-shirt, a pathetic flag of truce. In his other hand, dangling at his side, was a pistol. Ethan Wright. Logan called out, his voice carrying in the sudden quiet. Drop the weapon. Now, Ethan's eyes were wild, scanning the house, barely registering Logan. Celeste. He screamed, his voice cracking. I know you're in there. I saw them leave. You made a deal with them, didn't you? You set me up. Last warning, Logan said, his tone icy. Drop the gun. I just want to talk to her, Ethan yelled, taking a stumbling step forward. The pistol wavered in his hand. You owe me that. Celeste, after everything, you ruined me. You and your gangster friends. Logan glanced back at me, a question in his eyes. I took a deep breath and nodded. He shifted slightly, giving me a sliver of space in the doorway. I stepped into view. Ethan froze, his jaw going slack. He stared at me as if I were a true apparition. Relief, confusion, and a dawning, terrifying understanding warred on his face. You're alive, he whispered. Then, louder, you're really alive. Disappointed? My voice didn't carry like his, but it cut through the night. All of it, the lawyers. Volkov, it was you. The pieces were clicking into place in his shattered mind. The pistol in his hand came up, not quite aiming, but the threat was clear. You bitch. You vengeful, conniving bitch. Drop the gun, Ethan, Logan ordered, his own rifle rising an inch. Or what? Ethan spat, his fear morphing into a hysterical rage. You'll shoot me? Go ahead. Then she'll never know why. Why what? I asked, taking a half step forward. Logan's hand shot out, a barricade in front of me, but I didn't stop. Why you decided I was worth $300,000. I think I know why. Because you're a small, greedy, pathetic man, and that's all you'll ever be. The insult hit its mark. His face contorted. You think you're so much better? Princess in her castle? I loved you. I gave you everything. You gave me a lie. I shot back, the cold fury finally breaking free. You gave me a life built on debt and cocaine and other people's money. You looked me in the eye every night and planned my murder. So don't you dare talk to me about love. You don't know the meaning of the word. He was shaking now, the pistol trembling violently. I had no choice. You don't understand the pressure. I was drowning. It was just business. It was my life. The scream tore from my throat, raw and primal. And you sold it. You haggled. You got a discount. Something in him broke. The rage collapsed into a wet, ragged sob. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Celeste, I didn't mean. I was scared. Save it, I said, all emotion draining from my voice, leaving only a vast, empty cold. The time for apologies is over. It's over. Ethan, it's all over. Your company, your money, your freedom. Volkov is coming for you now. The police will be next. You have nothing. The truth of it, finally, seemed to penetrate. The fight went out of him. His shoulders slumped. The pistol, almost forgotten, dipped towards the ground. He looked like a lost child. What do I do? He whimpered. I looked at him. This man I had once loved, once vowed to build a life with. I felt nothing. No pity, no hate, just a distant, clean disgust. You run, I said softly, like the coward you are, and you hope they never find you. He stared at me for a long moment, tears cutting tracks through the grime on his face. Then, with a strangled cry, he turned and stumbled back towards his car, fumbling with the door. He never made it. From the tree line to the left, a single, unsuppressed gunshot rang out, shockingly loud in the aftermath of the silenced battle. Ethan jerked, a small, dark hole appearing in the center of his back. He took one more stumbling step, his eyes wide with surprise, then crumpled face first onto the gravel driveway. I stared, stunned. A figure emerged from the shadows near the trees. It was one of the cleaners, the one called Rook. He lowered a rifle and keyed his mic. Threat neutralized. Hostile was attempting to flee. Weapon was still in hand. A clean, professional kill. A loose and tied up. I felt Logan's hand on my arm, pulling me back from the doorway. turning me away from the sight of Ethan's body. "Don't look," he said, his voice close to my ear. But I'd already seen the final, brutal period at the end of the sentence of my old life. There was no catharsis, no relief, just a hollow, echoing finality. I looked up at Logan. His face was etched with fatigue and concern, the cut on his cheek stark in the light. The man who had killed for me, the man who had protected me, the man who had, for one moment, held me as if I were the only solid thing in a crumbling world. "It's done," I whispered. He nodded, his green eyes searching mine. "It's done." I took a shaky breath, the cold night air filling my lungs. The scent of gunpowder was fading, replaced by the smell of damp earth and pine. The immediate war was over, but I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that another was just beginning. I looked past him, into the dark woods, towards a future I had spent a lifetime running from. The path was clear now. There were no more illusions, no more hiding. "Take me home, Logan," I said, my voice stronger now, clear in the silent night. "I need to see my father." The limousine moved through the Hamptons like a silent shark through familiar waters. The towering hedges, the discreet gates, the sprawling estates hidden from view. It was a landscape etched into my bones, a place I'd sworn I'd never see again. I sat stiffly in the back, the plush leather feeling like a betrayal against my skin. Logan sat across from me, a silent sentinel, his gaze fixed on the world passing outside his window. He hadn't spoken since we'd gotten in the car. The events of the night, the siege, Ethan's final, pitiful end, hung between us like a shroud. "He didn't have to die," I said quietly, not looking at him. Logan's eyes shifted to me. "He made the choice the moment he raised a gun in your direction with hostile intent. Rook's call was correct. He was a threat. Threats get neutralized. He was a broken man. Broken men are the most dangerous kind." His tone was final. It was the tone of a man who had seen too many broken men do terrible things. "It's over. He can't hurt you anymore." That was the official line, the clean, operational truth. But the human truth was Messier. I didn't mourn Ethan. The man I'd loved had been a phantom, a construct of lies. But the violent punctuation of his life left a hollow, sick feeling in my stomach. It was a reminder that in this world, the world I was being driven back to, endings were rarely clean. They were often loud and messy and final. The car turned through a set of ornate, wrought iron gates I remembered from childhood. The long, manicured driveway stretched ahead, leading to the house. Not a house, the manor, a sprawling, Italianate monstrosity of white stone and ivy, sitting like a crown on the bluffs overlooking the Atlantic. Every light was on, a beacon in the pre-dawn gloom, a show of strength, or a hospital ward keeping vigil. I couldn't tell. Vincent was waiting at the top of the marble steps, as still and formal as a butler from another century. The car stopped. Logan got out first, scanning the grounds with a practiced eye before opening my door. The salty, cold air hit me, carrying the distant roar of the ocean. It was the smell of my childhood, of confinement. "Celeste," Vincent said, inclining his head. His eyes, however, went to Logan, a silent question passing between them. Logan gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. "Mission accomplished. Principle secure. Your father is waiting. He's had a difficult night." But he insisted. "I'm sure he did," I said, my voice flat. I climbed the steps, my legs feeling leaden. Logan fell into step behind me, a shadow I could no longer outrun. The interior was exactly as I remembered. Soaring ceilings, dark wood, priceless art that felt more like armor than decoration. The air smelled of lemon polish and something else, faint and medicinal. It was silent, the kind of deep silence only great wealth and fear could buy. Vincent led us not to the grand living room or the study, but to the east wing, to the master suite. The door was ajar, He pushed it open and stood aside. The room was vast, dominated by a canopied bed that looked like it belonged in a museum. But the machinery surrounding it was modern and grim. And stand, a monitor with a softly beeping heartline, an oxygen concentrator humming quietly. In the center of it all, propped up on a mountain of pillows, was my father. Angelo Moretti had always been a large man, commanding, a presence that filled any room. The figure in the bed was a shrunken parody. The cancer had eaten him from the inside, leaving behind sharp bones draped in paper-thin skin. But his eyes were the same, dark, intelligent, miss-nothing eyes that pinned me to the spot the moment I walked in. Celeste, his voice was a dry rustle, but the authority in it was undiminished. You took your time, all the rehearsed speeches, the angry diatribes I'd composed in my head on the drive over, evaporated, standing before this dying tyrant. I was 11 years old again, caught sneaking out after curfew. You wanted a lesson, I said, my own voice sounding too loud in the hushed room. I got one. Was it everything you hoped for? A ghost of a smile touched his cracked lips. Sit. It wasn't an invitation. It was an order. I remained standing. Logan had positioned himself just inside the door. A statue. Vincent lingered in the hallway. You look like your mother, Angelo said, his gaze traveling over my face. When she was angry, she had the same fire. Don't. I cut in, the word sharp as a knife. Don't you dare use her to manipulate me. Not now. He sighed, a rattling sound deep in his chest. I am not manipulating. I am stating a fact. She was too gentle for this world. It killed her. I vowed it would not kill you. So you tried to kill me yourself? By letting me walk into a kidnapping? By using my husband's betrayal as some twisted teaching moment? The anger was returning, hot and vital. I did not let you do anything. He fired back, a spark of the old fire in his eyes. You chose him. You chose that life. A life of pastries and pretty parties and pretend. I showed you what that world truly is. A world of vultures and weak men. A world that would devour you. He coughed, a racking, painful sound that left him gasping. Vincent took a half step forward, but Angelo waved him off with a frail hand. You needed to see it, to feel it, to understand that the only safety in this life is the safety you make for yourself. The safety of power. Power? I laughed. The sound bitter. The power to have men killed? The power to spy on your own daughter? The power to sit in a palace and pull strings while people bleed on the ground for you? That's not power, Father. That's a prison. It is a throne. He insisted, his voice gaining strength with his passion. A throne I built for you. From nothing. I scraped and fought and built an empire so you would never have to want for anything. So you would never be at the mercy of men like Ethan Wright. And what was I at your mercy? I shot back, moving closer to the bed. A pawn. You let me go. Not out of respect, but as a test. A cruel, stupid test to prove your point. You gambled with my life to make me fall in line. And you survived. He roared, then dissolved into another coughing fit. When he recovered, his voice was a strained whisper. You survived. You faced the wolf, and you did not run. You showed him your teeth. You stood in that doorway, and you sent Volkov's dogs running with just your voice. My voice. He looked at me with a fierce, proud intensity that was more terrifying than his anger. You are Moretti. You always were. You just needed to remember. I stared at him, this dying king trying to hand me a scepter dipped in blood. The truth of his words warred with the revulsion in my soul. He was right. In that moment, facing down Gregor, I hadn't been Celeste Wright. I'd been something else, something colder, harder, something that knew how to wield fear as a weapon, something that was, undeniably, his daughter. I remember, I said slowly, the fight draining out of me, leaving a cold, clear certainty. I remember what this name costs. I remember the silence in this house. The fear in people's eyes when you walked into a room. I remember the business trips that Mother never asked about. I don't want that throne. His face fell, the pride crumbling into something like despair. Then what was it all for? He whispered, suddenly looking every one of his years and more. What did I build it for? You built it for yourself. I said, not unkindly. And that's your legacy, not mine. The silence stretched. The monitor beeped steadily. The ocean wind sighed against the windows. What will you do? He asked finally. His eyes closed. Go back to your graphic designs? Find another Ethan? The world does not change because you wish it to. Celeste, the wolves are still there. I know, I said, but I don't have to become a wolf to survive them. And I don't have to live in your den to use the tools you left behind. His eyes opened. They were sharp again, assessing. Explain. I took a deep breath. This was the negotiation, the only one that mattered. I'm not taking over. Not the way you want. I won't sit in your chair and give orders about things I don't understand and don't believe in. But I am a Moretti. This empire is partly mine, whether I like it or not. He waited, saying nothing. I'll stay, but on my terms. I want a position in the Moretti Foundation, the legitimate one, the one that funds hospitals and museums. I start there. I learn the business from the clean side. I see what you've built that's worth saving. And I have a real say, in where the money goes, in what the family invests in. We start pulling it into the light, or I walk away for good. And you can watch your life's work get picked apart by vultures when you're gone. It was a bluff. We both knew it. Walking away now, after everything, was impossible. The world knew a Moretti was back in play, but he didn't call it. He studied me, his mind working behind those dark eyes. You would be a figurehead, he said, but it was a probe, not a rejection. No, I'd be an apprentice, with veto power. And you? I looked at the four-line, the oxygen tubes. You teach me what you can, the real things, not the street things, the boardroom things, the things that last. A long, slow breath escaped him. It sounded like surrender, or perhaps the beginning of a new, more complex game. You drive a hard bargain. I learned from the best. A faint, genuine smile touched his lips. It transformed his ravaged face, making him look, for a moment, like the father who'd taught me to ride a bike. Yes, he rasped. You did. He looked past me, to the doorway. Logan. Logan stepped forward. Sir, you will stay with her, as her head of security, and as her advisor, in this new venture. His gaze swung back to me. He knows the shadows. You will need someone who knows the shadows, even as you walk in the light. I looked at Logan. His expression was unreadable, but I saw a muscle jump in his jaw. Another order, another lifetime assignment. We'll discuss it, I said, asserting the new dynamic before it even began. Angelo's smile widened, almost approving. See, you're already learning. He closed his eyes, the brief exertion draining him. Go, both of you. Vincent will draw up the papers. We begin tomorrow. It was a dismissal. The audience was over. I had gotten what I came for, a conditional surrender, a path forward of my own making. It felt less like a victory and more like a treaty signed over a sickbed. I turned and left the room, the smell of antiseptic and dying dreams clinging to me. Logan followed, a silent presence at my back. We didn't speak until we were outside, walking away from the oppressive house, down a gravel path that led to the cliffside gardens. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold over the dark, churning ocean. I stopped at a stone balustrade, gripping the cold, damp rock. The wind whipped my hair. I felt unmoored, adrift between two worlds, belonging to neither. He still thinks he can dictate our lives, I said, not looking at Logan. It's all he knows. Logan replied, coming to stand beside me. Not too close. He stared out at the horizon. The order, the control. Is that all you know? The question hung in the salt air between us. He was quiet for a long time. For a long time, it was the job, the mission, keep her safe, report, don't get involved. He finally turned his head to look at me. The morning light caught the green in his eyes, and for the first time, I saw the boy I remembered, buried under years of hardness. I failed at the last part. My heart thumped painfully against my ribs. Which part? The don't get involved part. He looked away, back at the ocean, his profile stark. I was angry when you left. Furious. You saw this world as a prison. I saw it as my purpose. My family owed yours everything. Protecting you was my honor, my duty, and you threw it in my face. I wanted a life, Logan, not a mission objective. I know, he said, the words barely audible over the wind. And I watched you try to build one. I watched you laugh with friends I'd vetted. I watched you graduate. I watched you fall in love with a man I knew was a fraud. His hands clenched on the stone railing. And I did nothing, because my orders were to observe, to protect you from physical harm, but not from heartbreak. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. The confession hung in the air, raw and unexpected. Why are you telling me this now? Because you stood in that doorway last night, he said, turning to face me fully. The raw emotion on his face was unnerving. You weren't the girl I was ordered to protect. You weren't the woman I watched from the shadows. You were someone else. Someone who took the nightmare he was handed and turned it into a weapon. Someone who didn't need my protection in that moment. She needed a partner. He said the word carefully, as if testing its weight. And I'm tired of being in the shadows. Celeste, I'm tired of following orders about you. I stood by once and let you walk into a life that nearly destroyed you. I won't do it again. What are you saying? My voice was a whisper. I'm saying your father just gave me a new order. To stay with you. To advise you. He took a small step closer. The space between us crackled. I'm asking you to give me one. Not as your bodyguard. Not as your father's soldier. But as me. As Logan. Let me stand next to you. In the light. Or in the shadows. If that's where we need to go. But let me stand with you. For once. The wind tugged at my clothes, at my hair. I searched his face. This man who was my oldest memory and my greatest mystery. The boy who shared his secrets in a treehouse. The ghost who kept me safe for a decade. The soldier who killed for me. The man whose embrace, brief as it was, had been the only solid thing in a week of free fall. It's not a job you can quit. Logan, I said softly. I know. It's messy. And complicated, and the partner you saw last night, she's scared, and angry, and she doesn't know who she is yet. I know that, too, he said, a hint of his old, wry smile touching his lips. I've been watching, remember? I've seen all the versions of you, the brave one, the foolish one, the kind one, the furious one. I'm not asking for a finished product. I'm asking to be there while you figure it out. He wasn't offering me a fairy tale. He was offering me a truth, a complicated, difficult, dangerous truth. But it was a truth that looked me in the eye. It was a truth that had seen me at my weakest and hadn't turned away. It was a truth that had, in its own broken way, loved me enough to let me go, and loved me enough to never really leave. I looked out at the vast, gray ocean, at the new day breaking over a world that was no longer black and white, but 1,000 shades of gray. I thought of the empty shell of a life I'd left behind. I thought of the gilded cage I was stepping into. I thought of the cold, hard power I'd touched last night, and the even colder loneliness it promised. Then I looked at Logan, at the hope and the fear warring in his eyes, at the steadfast presence that had been the one constant in the chaos of my life, even when I hadn't known it. I didn't take his hand. I didn't throw myself into his arms. The girl who might have done that was gone, buried in a garage in Queens. Instead, I simply nodded, a slow, deliberate acceptance of a new reality. All right, I said, let's figure it out. It wasn't a promise of forever. It wasn't a declaration of love. It was a beginning, a fragile, uncertain truce between the past and the future, between the princess and the protector, between the woman I was and the woman I was becoming. He nodded back, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. The professional mask didn't return. He just stood there, Logan, beside me. We stood in silence as the sun broke fully over the horizon, painting the turbulent water in gold. The manor loomed behind us, a fortress and a legacy. The city lay ahead, a battlefield of a different kind. The ghosts of my past were quiet for now. The man who had betrayed me was gone. The father who had orchestrated my awakening was fading. All that was left was the wind, the sea, and the man beside me, and a future I would have to build for myself. One complicated, dangerous, honest day at a time. I was no longer Celeste Wright, the victim. I was not yet Celeste Moretti, the heir. I was just Celeste, and for the first time in a very long time. That felt like enough.